7 days a week. Looking for number one, looking rather be. Well, I'm Rudy. What a job being Rudy.
Good evening and welcome to Visual Radio program number 101. My special guest is Dinky Dawson, sound man, record producer, and now author. Dinky.
Good evening, Joe.
Welcome to Joe's World.
This is Joe's World. Thank you very much for the invite. It's very nice.
You're always invited here at TV3.
Thank you. So, Joe, we'll have some fun tonight, lad.
We will. This book is irresistible. I cannot put it down. Life on the road. And you've had a life on the road many, many times with many different people.
That's correct. And we only cover, you know, from 1960s through 1979 in this particular book because there's too many stories to add.
Fleetwood Mac, Joan Baez, the Kinks, Jay Giles Band, the Modern Lovers, Lou Reed, it goes on and on and on. The Mahavishnu Orchestra, the Byrds, Jeff Beck.
Yes.
You know these people?
All of them.
Steely Dan?
Of course. You know Lou, so...
Lou's birthday was yesterday, and we both phoned him and wished Lou Reed a happy birthday.
Yes, he deserves it after all these years. Even though I did mention a few nice little tiny bits in the book about Lou. But we were all the same at that time. We were all bad to ourselves. And
speak for yourself. Drugs ruined me, and I never took any.
Hey, that's a great title for a book, Joe.
All my friends did.
Oh, yes. Well, it was the 70s. What are you going to do? It was the 70s. It was part of life and society. Every single person was a bad person at that point. Well, not bad, but there's no one bad. I mean, fun was the word, but obliterated was the rest.
I'm going to turn the tables on you. Would you like to begin at the beginning, or do we start with Lou Reed since it was his birthday?
Let's start at the beginning. Let's go back. Let's go back even
Let's go
before
back
Lou.
in time. Sure, why not?
That's a few years before Lou. Let's talk about the little latter end of the 60s. Actually, maybe talk about the early part of the 60s and the latter end part of the 60s.
You could talk about anything. This stuff is so interesting.
Well, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, you know, it starts off with Keith Moon stories, but let's just talk about the days of the Mojo Club, for instance, so that you would understand. I'll set you up. Mojo Club in England was a club by a friend of mine called Peter Stringfellow. You may have heard of him. Peter today is a wild character with all these bizarre bars he's got, but his main claim to fame was the Hippodrome that he built in London.
Oh, yeah.
It was wonderful. I mean, you could see George Michael come out of nowhere in the middle of this huge stage that just popped up out of the center of the building. It was just brilliant stuff. And at midnight, all these psychedelic lights would come on. Even now, they still do this.
Really?
Oh, yeah. 12 midnight, they do the 1812 overture, and everybody leaves the dance floor, and all these lights and fogs come on and scare the heck out of you.
So in England, when do the clubs close?
Well, that's an interesting thing. In the 60s, we used to close at 11 o'clock.
At night?
Yeah. But then, on the weekends, we would send everybody home. No, we'd tell them all to go to the car park, and then we'd open a new day, started at 1 o'clock in the morning. So we'd start at 1 o'clock in the morning and go till 7 in the morning.
Oh, my God.
And, you know, here's a photograph that I've got brought here. This is just of my characters. This is me in the middle kind of thing, and here. But this is 1966 of my club called the Pendulum Club in England.
Let me hold it up there.
Yeah, you can hold that up. And this is a bigger photograph of the same time period. I figured I'd bring some nice stuff to it so you could see. And there's another one, Joe, of that same time period of the club.
Very cool. I don't know if people can see it.
Well, it's a small photo, but it's...
Oh, there we go, there we go.
There you go, yeah, there you go. There's me, I'm the third one in from the left there. 1, 2, 3.
What year was that?
That's 1964, something like that, 65.
Wow.
And that's after the Beatles and the Stones came out. But there were other groups that started before them that I will play you on this show, Joe. I'll play you something that started the Count Viglione going, and before the Count, oh, I will talk about that later. I'll tell you all about that stuff.
So you've got some tapes you're going to play for us.
Oh, yeah. I decided I'd bring a few little items from the past that you might be interested in.
Are we going to hear some Fleetwood Mac?
Yes, we'll play a couple of Fleetwood.
That no one's ever heard?
Well, they've heard, but well, Fleetwood Mac is different. I mean, I was with the original Fleetwood Mac, and that means Peter Green, Danny Kerwin, Jeremy Spencer, John McVie, and Mick Fleetwood. That's the blues band, the original blues band. But we're getting ahead of ourselves
Okay,
here.
sorry.
So let's go back a bit. Let's look at 1967, for instance, and we'll ask Brett if he wants to play this first two songs here while we talk. This is a friend of mine called Vance Arnold. You know him better as Joe Cocker.
Joe Cocker, you mean his name is Vance Arnold?
Yeah, that's Joe Cocker's blues band.
Wow.
And I think Brett got it set up in the studio in there, and to play this song, and he can play this under the while we talk. This is live. Wow. 67 at the Mojo Club.
Joe Cocker!
Yeah, you see?
Wow. How did you tape this?
Ah.
Reel to reel?
This is a reel-to-reel tape recording put on an acetate for the University of Sheffield. University of Sheffield Rag Week, which is to raise money for charities. And we used to do a lot of this. And this is unheard of in this country. And in fact, anywhere else but on your show, Joe, on Visual Radio, you're hearing Joe Cocker for the first time in 67 when he was incredible. This is before the drug days. This is the booze days. It's the blues band.
Joe Cocker's Big Blues.
Yeah.
His name was Vance?
Vance Arnold and the Avengers.
Vance Arnold and the Avengers, I love it.
Hey, you know, some of these characters that I've known for since that time period are still playing. Dave Berry and the Cruisers, I saw them back in my old stomping grounds in this little village of Wentworth. Only 2 years ago when I was back in England, you know?
He was so good as a kid. My God, he's great.
Yeah.
What did you think when you saw this guy, Vance Arnold?
I cried. I actually cried. He did George on My Mind. Absolutely. George on My Mind was one of the finest songs I'd ever heard anyone do. But I didn't know Ray Charles had done it because I'd never heard the original. I heard Joe Cocker sing this.
Pretty intense.
Yeah. This is how it is.
This sounds so
Yeah. This is live, remember? This is what turned me on to live music.
good. Wow. Now, were you engineer at the time?
No, this is a friend of mine, Nick Walsh. I was the guy, Peter Stringfellow's friend.
Okay.
And what I was a dancer at the Mojo Club. And I used to go to Ready, Steady, Go, which was a TV show in England, and I was a dancer on the TV show. And that's in the book, the dance about the TV show. In fact, while at Ready, Steady, Go, we'll talk about this one because this is fun. I was in the line in the commissary trying to eat, get some food while we were on a break. And all of a sudden, there's this Jello flies left and the right. Food fight, food fight. And who should be throwing this Jello?